Hello, dear friends. Thank you for returning to the story where hearts that once suffered are finding peace gently and softly. A small farm, the laughter of a child, a man who unknowingly becomes a pillar of support, a woman learning to trust in the future again. And then the most unexpected thing happened. Two mothers, Henry's grandmother and Mrs. Min, met. These two women, having lived through half a lifetime, understood each other with just one look. And after a meal full of laughter, they were so honest no one could have imagined it. They're in love with each other now. Let the two old ladies plan their future for them. Just one sentence, but enough to make Alex nervous. Tuna blush, and Henry clap his hands in delight as if he understood everything. And from that moment on, everything began to take a new turn. A turn filled with light hope and challenges waiting ahead. So, get ready, because the next chapter will hold even more surprises, the moments when the two families meet again, when Alex and Tuna get closer with each passing day, and the twists and turns that force them to hold each other's hands if they want to move forward. Thank you for joining me in this journey. Let's open a new chapter together where the most beautiful emotions are just beginning to bloom. Are you ready? The early morning at the farm is always quiet in its own way. Soft, like a breath, thin like mist, warm like the first rays of the sun. Tuna woke up as the soft golden light slowly crept through the window, caressing her hair. She turned over her hand, reaching to the side, and touched Henry's soft hair. The boy was fast asleep, his chubby cheeks flushed with pink from playing with Alex until late last night. His tiny hand still clutched the stuffed deer Alex gave him. Tuna chuckled softly, a smile as sweet as honey in the morning. She bent down, kissed his forehead gently. "Good morning, my love." Henry stirred a little, then snuggled deeper into the blanket like a little kitten. Tuna's heart tightened with boundless love. The small room still held the warmth from the night before. Tuna sat up carefully, trying not to wake Henry. She looked around the room, the toys Alex had bought the day before scattered across the rug. A little wooden car, a brown bear, colorful building blocks. All scattered in a way that was so charming she couldn't help but smile. Bending down, she picked up each toy, muttering to herself, "He spoils the kid too much." But in her voice, there was gratitude, gentleness, something she couldn't hide. The kitchen was bright, where the warmth of the day began. In the kitchen, the sound of water flowing, the knife cutting through vegetables, and the gas stove being lit blended together into a soft melody. Tuna was preparing breakfast, some chicken porridge for Henry, fried eggs for herself, and a few portions to take over to Mrs. Min later. While cooking, she looked around the farm. "Today I'll send Henry over to Mrs. Tong's, then head to the orchard in the village to pick some fruit to sell at the market. Hopefully, I can sell some, maybe enough to buy a few things for him." She said this to herself while opening the cupboard for the familiar wicker basket. Just then, the phone rang. The sound echoed in the small kitchen, making Tuna startle. She wiped her hands on her apron and picked up the phone. An unexpected call. "Yes, Johnny. You're calling me this early. Is everything okay?" Her voice was still a little hoarse from just waking up. On the other end of the line, Johnny's deep laughter filled the air. "It's nothing serious. I need to take my mom over to your area this morning. Thought I'd drop by for a bit." Tuna blinked, her heart racing a little. "Mom, your mom is coming." too? Johnny laughed. Yeah. She said she had a great time meeting Henry the other day and wanted to visit him. I'm calling to let you know in case you're out. Tuna stood still for a few seconds. Then a natural smile appeared on her face, a soft, happy, and grateful smile. Then, just come by. I'll be home. I'm so happy that your mom's coming to visit. After hanging up, she placed the phone down unconsciously, wrapping her arms around her apron. A warm happiness spread through her. Henry's grandmother is coming all the way here to visit us. The feeling of being loved by others, of being accepted, meant more to Tuna than anything else. She looked out the kitchen window. The sky was beautiful today, with a gentle breeze and golden sunshine. A perfect day to welcome family. And suddenly, an idea flashed in her mind, an idea that made her heart flutter with excitement. Maybe I'll invite Alex and his mom over to the farm too, a family lunch together. The image was so clear in her mind that Tuna wanted to cover her face with emotion. After breakfast, Henry woke up. A small shuffle in the bedroom made Tuna turn her head. Henry was awake. The little boy crawled out of the blanket, his eyes still half closed, hair a mess, looking like a bird's nest. Mom. Mom. Tuna ran over to lift him up. You're awake. You must be tired after playing with Dad. Alex last night. Huh? Henry nuzzled his head into her neck, his little arms wrapping around her tightly as if afraid she might disappear. Tuna bent down to kiss his cheek, smiling softly. Grandma's coming to visit Henry today. The boy immediately looked up, his eyes wide, kicking his little feet with joy. That little scene was enough to make Tuna's heart melt once again. Tuna spread a small mat under the mango tree, letting Henry play with his toys in the early sunshine. Meanwhile, she washed some small towels and prepared fruits to offer the guests. Henry's laughter echoed in the yard, clear, tiny, like the sound of silver bells. The breeze rustled the mango leaves gently. The whole farm seemed to be covered in a golden layer of peace. Suddenly, the sound of a car approaching the gate. Henry looked up, waving his little hands in the air. Tuna stood up and quickly walked toward the gate, and when she saw the person opening the gate, her heart skipped a beat. Henry's grandmother. She smiled, her gaze warm like sunlight just touching the ground. Tuna, it's been so long since we last met. Her voice was so soft it made Tuna's throat tighten. She quickly walked up, bowed politely. Hello, Mom. I'm so happy that you're here to visit. The grandmother took her hand, squeezing gently, a squeeze full of love, acceptance, and family. And right then, Henry stumbled toward them, his little hands reaching out to her. Grandma! She laughed and hugged him tightly. That scene was enough to bring tears to Tuna's eyes. Alex arrived at the farm on a rare, beautiful afternoon. The sunlight spilled over the mango trees, casting a warm golden hue on the brick yard, and Henry's laughter echoed through the space so pure that it seemed to brighten everything around. Tuna was sitting next to him, gently wiping his mouth, while Henry's grandmother sat nearby on a bamboo chair, her silver hair shining under the sun, her kind eyes filled with love as she looked at her grandson. Johnny stood leaning against the porch post, holding a glass of soursop juice, smiling in amusement at the sight of the two women and their chatter. It was only when the sound of a car stopping outside the gate that everything paused for a moment. Tuna turned her head slightly, her eyes lighting up. Alex is here. Henry seemed to recognize that familiar name, immediately spinning around his little voice, calling out, "Dad, Dad," while his tiny legs kicked in excitement as if he were trying to jump out of his grandmother's arms. The wooden gate opened. Alex walked in, still dressed in the neat attire from his morning meeting, but his gaze softened immediately upon seeing Henry. He was about to call out softly, but the words disappeared the moment his eyes landed on the woman sitting on the bamboo chair. Henry's grandmother. A woman with silver hair, a kind face, and hands that, though thin, were warm as they gently stroked her grandchild's head. And most importantly, her eyes that made Alex freeze in his place. A strange feeling stirred in his chest, a mix of confusion, gratitude, and a realization that he was standing before something deeply important to Henry and Tu. Not something he had never faced directly before. Henry, upon seeing Alex, squealed and scampered towards him. Alex immediately crouched down, opening his arms to catch the boy. Henry's laughter, the scent of sunlight on his little skin, and that small, trusting hug made Alex's chest warm, words failing him. "Henry, are you happy today?" The boy nodded eagerly, pointing at his grandmother. Grandma Alex looked up. Just then, Henry's grandmother stood up, smiling and walking over. "You must be Alex, right?" Her voice was as soft as the breeze. Alex slowly stood up, holding Henry in his arms and bowing politely. "Yes." "Hello, ma'am. I'm Alex. I've known Tuna and her son for quite some time." Tuna stood nearby, her cheeks flushed with shyness. Johnny, arms crossed, smiled as though he had predicted this moment from the start. Henry's grandmother gazed at Alex for a long while. It wasn't an investigative or judgmental look. It was the gaze of an elder looking at the man before her, assessing if his heart was big enough, if his hands were warm enough, and if his eyes were honest enough. Finally, she gave a slight nod, and just that single nod made Alex exhale in relief. "Thank you for loving this boy." Those simple words landed straight in his heart. Alex held Henry a little tighter, then looked directly into her eyes, his voice firm and steady. "I love Henry. And I love his mother too. I'll make sure neither of them suffers again." Those words made Tuna freeze. She lowered her face, her eyes beginning to glisten, not from sadness, but from happiness rising up too quickly. Johnny burst out laughing, breaking the tension. All right. The future son-in-law makes his declaration in front of the parents. Alex shot a glance at his friend, but couldn't hide his smile. And Henry's grandmother lightly touched Alex's arm where he was holding Henry. Then, "Stay for a meal with the family today. It'll add some laughter to this house." Alex turned to look at Tuna. She pursed her lips, nodding softly. In her eyes was a whole world of unsaid hope. He responded with a voice even gentler than the midday sun. "Yes, I'd be happy to." At that moment, Henry hugged Alex's neck tightly, as if declaring, "Dad has to stay with me." Tuna stood beside them, sunlight shining on her shoulder, her eyes sparkling like clear water. Alex looked at her. She looked at him. No more words were needed. Just that one look was enough for them to understand. In this little sunlit yard, amidst Henry's laughter and the two older women watching over them, a family was truly taking shape. And Alex knew he had arrived at the right place, at the right time, and with the right people he wanted to protect for the rest of his life. Alex was still holding Henry in his arms, his other hand casually holding Tuna's hand as a natural reflex. In the yard, the sunlight was still gentle, like a thin cloth, and the breeze made her hair flutter lightly. Her gaze was soft, like a stream of water, causing Alex's heart to soften for a moment. He looked at Henry's grandmother, who was smiling, then glanced at Johnny sitting nearby, and an idea came to him naturally. An idea that made his heart warm, like a small light connecting the pieces together into a complete picture. Alex tilted his head toward Tuna, his voice soft but warm, as if lowering it just for the two of them to hear. Tuna, your mom's here to visit. How about I bring my mom over too? Tuna looked up, her eyes wide for a second. She instinctively placed a light hand on Alex's, a gentle feminine gesture, uniquely Tuna. I'm just afraid your mom might not like it. If she does, that would be wonderful. I'd be so happy. Her voice was small, but sincere. The smile that briefly crossed her lips made Alex feel his heart tighten soft, as though someone had gently squeezed it. He bent down, kissed Henry's forehead, and placed him on the ground so he could run toward his grandmother. Then he pulled out his phone. Before dialing, Alex looked at Tuna once more, as if trying to reassure her. If my mom knows that Henry and you are here, she'll definitely like it. Tuna blushed and quickly turned away to hide a smile, but Alex saw it all. And that was why he dialed the number faster, more confidently. The phone rang, and Mrs. Min's voice came through on the other end, still the same as his mother's voice, strong but full of love. Hello, Alex, is that you? Alex stood tall, his eyes gazing out at the sunlit yard. Yes, Mom. Please get ready. I'll come pick you up to visit Tuna's farm. It's so lively here. There was a brief pause on the other end. Then Mrs. Min's voice broke into a soft laugh, warm and full of meaning. Okay, I'll wait. You come pick me up. Just one sentence, and Alex felt his heart open wide. He hung up, turned back toward everyone. Tuna was still standing beside him, her hands clasped in front of her chest, both nervous and expectant. Alex walked over to Henry's grandmother, and Johnny bowed politely. Excuse me, Ma'am and Johnny. I'm going to pick up my mom to bring her over to join us for a meal. Johnny burst into laughter. Go ahead. Hurry up. If your mom finds out I'm here before she does, I'm dead for sure. Alex shot a look at his friend, but a smile couldn't help but form at the corners of his mouth. Henry's grandmother. She narrowed her eyes, looking at Alex with a deep, kind gaze, the kind only an elder who's lived a full life can have. She nodded, her voice so casual it left Tuna stunned. Go ahead, bring your mom here. Then she laughed a laugh filled with an uncontainable joy. Let the two old ladies sit and talk, planning the future for the two kids. Tuna froze, her eyes wide. Her cheeks flushed like the evening sun. Johnny nearly choked on his water at the grandmother's straightforward remark. As for Alex, his heart skipped a beat. Not out of embarrassment, not out of surprise, but because her words touched exactly what he had been holding in his heart, something he hadn't dared to say out loud. He bowed deeply before her, his voice low but soft, like a promise. Yes. I'm grateful, ma'am. I'll go pick up my mom right away. When Henry heard his grandmother say future, he laughed and hugged her legs, as if in agreement. Tuna stood there, her hands gently clasped her eyes, watching Alex as he walked toward the gate. A look so warm that anyone could believe today's afternoon would be a turning point. Two families, two mothers, and two hearts that had been broken were about to meet. and the best things might just begin from this simple meal at the farm. Alex opened the car door. The sunlight broke into pieces on his shoulders. He turned back to look at Tuna one more time, his gaze full of tenderness, meaning, and a future ahead. Then he said, just enough for her to hear, "I'll be right back." And the car drove out of the small farm's gate, carrying the eager heart of a man who for the first time wanted to bring his mother to meet the family he hoped to build. Alex drove home with a feeling of both nervous excitement and joy, a happiness that had sparked ever since Henry's grandmother had smiled and told him, "Go bring your mom here so the two old ladies can talk about the future for the two kids." For the first time in many years, he felt like he wasn't just taking his mom out for a visit, but bringing her to something very important for his future. As he stopped the car at the gate, Mrs. Min was standing on the porch, looking as if she'd been waiting and also a little anxious. The moment she saw her son get out of the car, she immediately asked, "Where are you taking me so urgently?" Alex approached and opened the car door for her as if preparing for a special occasion. "Mom, please change into something nice. I'm taking you to Tuna's farm." Mrs. Min was a little taken aback. "You mean we're meeting Tuna's mom too?" Alex nodded with a gentle smile at the corner of his mouth. Without a word, she turned quickly into the house so fast that Alex couldn't help but laugh. A few minutes later, she came back out, holding a basket of fresh tangerines, still warm from the sun, and a box of homemade mung bean cakes. "How's this? Is it okay, son?" Alex looked at her and felt his heart warm. "It's more than perfect, Mom." On the way to the farm, Mrs. Ming sat up straight, gripping the basket of tangerines as if holding a gift. She glanced at Alex, her voice small but sincere. "I'm a little nervous. I don't know if I'll get along with Tuna's mom." Alex placed his hand on hers, his voice so warm that it reassured her, "I'm sure she'll like you." When the car stopped in front of the farm's wooden gate, Mrs. Min stood still for a few seconds, taking in the peaceful view, the brick yard, the large mango tree, the lush vegetable patches, and the sound of Henry's laughter ringing through the air. She let out a soft sigh, as if letting go of some vague worry. As soon as they stepped into the yard, Mrs. Min froze. Henry was crawling happily on the rug, giggling. His grandmother was sitting beside him, her silver hair glowing under the sunlight, making her look particularly kind. Tuna was bringing out a bowl of porridge with gentle care. Johnny was standing nearby, holding a glass of water, looking like the host more than Tuna herself. When Tuna saw Alex and the person with him, her heart skipped a beat. She put the bowl down and quickly walked over. Alex spoke gently. "Mom, this is Tuna, and this is Henry's mom." Henry's grandmother immediately stood up, her smile widening her eyes, full of warmth. Mrs. Min bowed her head, her voice trembling slightly. "Hello, I'm Alex's mom." The two women stood in front of each other, observing each other with the gaze of those who have lived half a lifetime. A gaze not of judgment, but of sincerity, wanting to understand one another. Henry's grandmother took a step forward, took Mrs. Min's hand in hers, and her voice was so warm that it made both Tuna and Alex choke up. "It's good that you came. They really love each other." Mrs. Min chuckled softly, her eyes glistening with emotion. "I hope they'll be happy." At that moment, Henry crawled over, hugged Mrs. Min's legs, and looked up, calling out Grandma. This made both women laugh and almost tear up with emotion. A child could erase all distance between people. The whole family gathered to have lunch under the mango tree. The atmosphere was lively, unlike any other day. Mrs. Min asking Tuna about her life. Henry's grandmother telling stories of Johnny's childhood. Johnny laughing loudly every time Alex was teased, and above all, the sweet laughter of Henry echoing through the yard. Alex sat next to Tuna, occasionally taking a spoon from her hand, his actions natural, as though they'd been doing this for a long time. Henry's grandmother served Mrs. Min a piece of braised fish and said, "Eat, please. Later, the two of us will sit down and talk about the future for these two kids." Alex almost choked on his food at those words, while Tuna's ears turned bright red, her face lowered to hide her smile. Johnny laughed so hard he almost choked on his water. Mrs. Min only smiled kindly, her gaze briefly meeting her son's, with a meaningful look causing Alex to look anywhere but sneak a glance at Tuna. The meal wasn't extravagant, but it was filled with laughter and peace. The simple dishes tasted extraordinary when shared under the sun with the wind and surrounded by family. And in the golden afternoon light, the two mothers occasionally looked at the two children growing up beside each other, then at Henry chattering away in Alex's arms, and nodded slightly as if both of them saw something clear and undeniable. A family, a future within reach, a happiness growing from this simple moment. And just as Alex turned to look at Tuna, catching her gentle gaze, both of them understood that afternoon, with laughter, with two mothers meeting with Henry, content in Alex's arms, would forever be one of the moments that opened a new door for their lives. A door leading straight to a real family. The warm afternoon passed by in laughter. After the meal, the evening breeze began to blow gently through the mango tree branches, carrying the scent of fresh leaves and golden sunlight. Henry, full from the meal, became more excited than ever. He crawled back and forth, then jumped up, like a little bunny, running around Alex's legs, making everyone laugh. Johnny pulled a red ball out of the car trunk. Without saying a word, he tossed it lightly onto the yard and shouted, "Henry, this ball! It's Henry's ball!" Henry's eyes lit up like he'd just discovered treasure. He ran towards the ball, kicked it, and slipped. He tumbled along with the ball, causing everyone in the yard to burst into laughter. Alex lifted him up, spinning him in the middle of the yard. Here comes Superhero. Henry. Henry laughed so hard his head tipped back, his soft hair catching the sunlight, making him look like a little angel. Tuna stood nearby, her hand covering her mouth, her gaze soft as she watched Alex's every move. A strong man who knows how to soften just for a child. A man who knows how to smile just because of her. That feeling made her heart flutter with every beat. The two mothers sat under the shade of the tree, chatting as though they had known each other for years. Under the mango tree, Mrs. Min and Henry's grandmother sat on two small bamboo chairs. Beside them was a basket of fruit, a few pieces of cake, and 2 cups of freshly brewed tea. It seemed like it only took them 5 minutes to become close. Henry's grandmother sighed softly. Tuna has been through a lot. I just hope she meets a good person. Mrs. Min glanced over at her son, who was playing with Henry in the yard. Alex was kneeling down, tying Henry's shoelaces, laughing as he did, a sight Mrs. Min had never seen from him in years. She spoke slowly, but firmly. Alex has been through a lot too, sister. He's strong on the outside, but his heart is weaker than people think. The two women looked at each other, then turned their gaze toward Tuna, standing by the porch, her eyes bright as she watched her son and that man playing together. Henry's grandmother smiled knowingly. It seems like they're healing each other. Mrs. Min laughed, nodding slightly. I think so too. Then she added a sentence that made both of them burst into laughter. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a wedding to go to. When Henry grew tired, he sat in his grandmother's lap, munching on a ripe mango, his eyes half closed from sleep. Johnny had been captured by the two mothers to help peel tangerines, leaving only Alex and Tuna to walk into the garden at the back. The garden in the late afternoon was breathtaking. The late-day sunlight fell in golden streaks across the vegetable beds, the breeze blowing the scent of the earth, the leaves and the flowers mixing together in a gentle fragrance. Tuna bent down to adjust the shade netting, and Alex stood next to her, reaching out to help hold the place she was working on. The closeness made her a bit shy, while he looked at her with an intensity in his eyes that he didn't try to hide. You've been through so much. Alex spoke, his voice low, but as soft as a silk thread. Tuna paused for a moment, lowering her head. I'm used to it. Alex didn't say anything else, only gently reached out to wipe a streak of dirt off her cheek. His touch was so slow that she could feel the warmth from his fingertips. From now on, don't get used to it. Let me help. Tuna's heart skipped a beat. Her eyes lifted, meeting his gaze, deep, genuine, and warm, as if he wanted to embrace her entire world. In that moment, if they were just a little closer, maybe he would pull her into his arms. But just then, a light disruption occurred. Henry cried. Henry's cry broke the moment, shattering it. They both jumped quickly, turning and running toward the front yard. Henry was holding his leg, his face scrunched up in pain. It seemed he had tripped over a root while chasing after the ball. Mrs. Min panicked. Oh my, he fell. But Henry's grandmother laughed. It's fine. Falling like this will help him grow. Tuna rushed over to pick Henry up. Henry, where does it hurt? What did you step on? Henry cried loudly, but as soon as he saw Alex run over, he stopped and reached out his hand toward him. Alex scooped Henry up, gently rubbing his leg, his voice soothing like the evening breeze. It's okay, superhero. Henry only gets stronger by falling. Henry immediately stopped crying and wiped his own tears as if to say, I'm okay. The whole yard burst into laughter, the tension evaporating. Johnny shook his head. See, Alex is the little guy's personal calm-down pill. The two mothers looked at each other, sharing a knowing smile. Clearly, the fates of the three of them had already intertwined more than they realized. The afternoon ended with a perfect sense of peace. As the sky turned to evening, the family gathered to drink tea on the porch. The evening breeze was cool. The scent of flowers fell in soft, fragrant streaks onto the yard. Henry was asleep in his grandmother's arms, breathing steadily and warmly. Johnny sprawled out on the bamboo chair, looking as comfortable as if he were part of the family. The two mothers kept talking, chatting about all sorts of things. Alex and Tuna sat side by side, not touching, but close enough that even the breeze seemed to push them closer together. The entire atmosphere from the last sunlight to the breeze, to the buzzing of mosquitoes seemed to be in their favor, creating a picture of family that anyone would want to be part of. And somewhere in Alex's heart, he knew. An important shift had just happened. No one needed to say it. No one needed confirmation. But everyone, the two mothers, Henry, even Johnny, could feel it. These two people had taken a big step toward each other. A family was slowly taking shape, from a sun-filled afternoon to a windy evening, and it would continue through countless warm moments ahead.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn. Hôm nay chúng ta sẽ bước vào một hành trình đầy nước mắt và bí ẩn của Thu Vi. Một cô gái tưởng chừng như mạnh mẽ nhưng lại bị đẩy vào một bi kịch không ngờ tới khi chính người dì lại đứng lên buộc tội Thu Vi ở một cảnh xuống cóc. Mọi thứ bỗng chốc sụp đổ, liệu đó chỉ là một sai lầm canh nhiệt hay ẩn chứa một âm mưu sâu phía sau? Liệu sự thật có được phơi bày để minh oan cho Tú Vi, hay chính khoảnh khắc này sẽ trở thành một bước ngoặt đau đớn khiến cô mang theo sự ân hận cả đời? Nếu bị chính người thân đẩy vào vực thẳm, bạn sẽ chọn im lặng, chịu đựng hay đứng lên để lật ngược tình thế? Trong căn phòng nhỏ, một đèn vàng hắt xuống người dì, ghế kéo ghế ngồi sát bên nói riêng, giọng thì thào như sợ vách tường có tai đây cầm lấy. Nhưng nếu khi một chữ không được để Tú Vi viết, nếu con lớn mẹ một công sức và mẹ sẽ đổ xuống biển. Ninh nhắm mắt nhìn sắp đến tay, môi cong không thể. Thường này với sao mẹ? Mẹ coi thường con quá rồi đấy, với số tiền này con còn chẳng đủ đi chơi một buổi. Người gì nhíu mày, giọng gắt gỏng. Nhưng ngay có phải biết giữ mình được không? Cả mẹ của con đều mất hết. Nhưng thay vì sợ hãi, Linh lại mỉm cười giọng ngọt ngào suốt lời con để mà mẹ yên tâm, con sẽ giữ kín như bông. Nhưng mẹ à, tiền này thì ít quá, con là con gái mẹ, lẽ nào mẹ tiếc với con người gì đến mức này gắt? Rút thêm tiền thì không nỡ, liền cất vội phần còn lại vào chiếc hộp gỗ giấu